My name is Dan Beck. I am the director of LGRMS. Been blessed to be doing this job for about 11 years, and we're going to go through the 2024 GMA Safety and Liability Management Grant Overview. So if you're here for that, you're here for the right reasons. And again, we're going to talk about changes. Not a lot of changes this year over last, so but there are a few, and we'll talk about those. We'll talk about the action plan and loss analysis. Just look at what we've given away in the last several years. If you look at that, we've given over $5.5 million to membership within the last 10 years since 2014. Last year, we gave away about $380,000 in GMA to about 56 members, and we still had probably over about $70,000 available. So we had that on the floor, and people didn't get any receipts or didn't get their application in time. So again, that is a waste. So make sure you get your application in time. You look at the workers' compensation, kind of the same thing. We actually gave away or reimbursed $280,000 last year for 56 members. I had 64 applications. We're about 120 short, so we could have given away $400,000 there total. So we about $120,000 we missed out on giving that to membership. Again, this is part of the brochure. So it talks about participant eligibility. To be eligible for a grant, a member must meet the following criteria. You got to be current in your contributions and fees, a minimum. Participation by any employee in at least one LGRMS sponsored training program within the last past year of the grant. So we really want to encourage people to attend the regional training, and we would encourage you to go on to lgrmstraining.com and look at the event calendar. It has all the upcoming training. It's not populated throughout the year, but it'll have every month, it'll have training popping up. So if you want to check it, I'd check it once a month. They have, again, we've got Work Comp 101 training, I think contracts training, human resource personal liability training, law enforcement training, all kinds of good things. Right now, we're focusing in on doing the safety coordinator and the law enforcement risk specialist training, and those are coming on right now. So the one thing you can do in regards to instead of taking the regional training, you can have one person go through the 3.5 hour online crisis coordinator training that we do offer. So if you're interested in that, please let me know. I'll send a link for that when I send out stuff. I'll also send a link for the calendar. You can look at things. Again, if applicable, current in responses to recommendations. So your LGRMS risk consultant will come out and visit you. They'll make a recommendation, send that to the appropriate person, and then they need to have responded within 90 days back to us. Don't have to complete everything, but they at least need to respond on what your plan is to complete those particular items. We did add last year in 2023, you can have either a safety coordinator or a law enforcement risk specialist. And again, we actually recommend having both. Law enforcement is where the vast majority of our losses are. And so we would like to have somebody that has specializes in risk management within that particular department. So ideally, you'd have a safety coordinator for non-law enforcement, and then a law enforcement risk specialist for law enforcement risk-related issues. And the expectation is for safety coordinator, you're going to identify that person, but they're going to go through safety coordinator training 1, 2, and 3. So the requirement is if you're a brand new safety coordinator, you only have to take one of the 3, either safety coordinator 1, 2, and 3. You don't have to take those in the series, so you don't have to take 1. You can take 2 first and go with 1 or whatever order you please, but you have to have those taken within the first 3 years you are a safety coordinator. So that's another requirement. Show proof of a policy on holding safety meetings and training. Again, this is simple. It can be a 2-paragraph thing that talks about how you hold safety meetings and training. I can provide you that language. You can stick it in another policy. A lot of people put it in their personnel manual, as long as it has been approved by the mayor, city administrator, or others, and it's an approved piece by that particular organization. Show proof of a written policy requiring minimum of 2 safety inspections. Exactly the same thing. We can provide you this language. It just needs to be in an official document approved by the city or organization. Show proof of the safety meetings training policy and self-inspection policies mentioned above. So for safety meeting proof, just show sign-up sheets, and I can send those to you if you would like. If you want inspections, we're looking for completed inspections, so I can send you a copy of our template inspection. I would suggest that you customize that for your particular member based on some of the risks within your particular area, but just doing an inspection is what we're expected. Show proof. There's a written mandatory seatbelt usage policy signed by the current mayor, city administrator. Again, you can put a seat. We have a copy of a language for the seatbelt policy, and it should be approved by the city organization. Then what I would like to see is where is it located, and then how is it communicated to employees? Ultimately, there needs to be some way to communicate that. But in reality, here's the situation. You need to really focus on how you get this information out. Having a policy and put it in writing and not managing it, what does that mean to your employees? It means nothing. If you're not holding people accountable for failing to follow that particular expectation, it doesn't mean much. And again, in regards to things you can do that are really going to improve your employees' lives, ensuring they're wearing seatbelts is one of those things, because we've seen so many fatalities where an employee was in a motor vehicle and the motor vehicle was in a severe collision, and the employee did not have their seatbelt on and they did not survive. And if they did have their seatbelt on, they would have survived that particular collision. So those members that have a premium, whether work comp or GMA, over $100,000, they will need to complete a safety action plan. Per your request, if you have a premium of that size, I will send you, based on your request, your loss analysis. You can use that loss analysis. You can use your own loss analysis to help develop a safety action plan. And again, if you have a grant of over $10,000, or $10,000, then you are over the $100,000 threshold. This is the piece. It's actually $200,000 or $200,000. You get over 10, between $200,000 and $60,000, you get 5% of your premium, and that basically goes up and down. Premiums between $60,000 6,000 and 60,000 get a max of $3,000. Premiums between $1,000 and $6,000 get 50% of their premium. Premiums less than $1,000 get $500. So again, you want to know what your premium is, you can send me an email. Be happy to send that information to you. Here's an example of how this is equated. The city of Happyville pays $330,000 in GMA and $143,000 in workers' compensation. That they would be eligible for $10,000 GMA grant and a $7,200 workers' compensation grant. And again, they've been over the $200,000 threshold. That makes it $10,000, and it's 5% times the 142 or 143,000, and that's the 7,200. The city of Partytown, who wouldn't want to live in Partytown, pays $15,000 in GMA and $3,600 in work comp. They would be eligible for $3,000 GMA grant and a $1,800 workers' compensation grant. Again, in regards to anything less than, I forget what the number is, between 6,000 and 60,000, the max is $3,000. Anything below $6,000 is 50% of what they pay within the premium. Again, the city of Cleanville pays $94,000 in GMA and $58,000 in work comp. Again, they would be eligible for $4,700 because that's 5% of their premium, and $3,000 in work comp because it's from the range of $60,000 to $6,000. So if you have questions, I can send you that information and explain that to you. The GMA grant will also reimburse 25% of the cost of IT in a box. And again, it's kind of changed its name, so I should have updated that to VC3 and some of the other things that they're doing. But if you're getting IT services or assistance from GMA's resource VC3, then we will help with that for 5 years. We'll pay 25% of that for 5 years. After that, if you don't find value in it, you probably shouldn't end your participation in that particular process. Again, program guidelines. A documented mandatory use policy, or SOP, has to be signed by the department. So if you're asking for equipment such as trenching equipment or respiratory equipment, we're going to be looking for a SOP. If you put on their vests, we're not looking for the SOP, but anything that would be expensive, something to the effect, we want to know how you're using it, if it's compliance related. Grant funds will be distributed on the first come, first approved basis. So, ideally, we'd be out of money. So we have a max of $450,000 on the GMA side, a max of $400,000 on the workers' compensation side. And we've not gone over those numbers. We've went over the old numbers, but we've raised those. We haven't gone over either of those particular numbers within our membership. But if we did, then the first come, first served basis. The purchases must be made in the calendar year that they occur, so they need to be made sometime within 2024. The review of the 2024 grant applications will begin 2/1. So if you have time, you need to get in there and send in your application. All grant applications must be received or postmarked before September 30th, 2024. Again, the premise behind getting those in early is so that we can get you an approval letter. Sometimes it takes about a month, and then so you can purchase them. So if we get the grant on September 30th and we get you approval by October 30th, sometimes it takes 2 months to get the order in and to get those received and get the proof of purchase. So we only have a certain period of time to get that money out based on our grant timeline, and that meeting that deadline really helps us out, ensuring we are going to get you your reimbursement in a timely manner. Please avoid submitting multiple grant applications. So we want one application from each member. So if you're a GMA member and a work comp member, we still just want one application. We don't want one from the fire department, one from the police department. We want one application. So if you have multiple departments that might be interested in receiving this, get them together and come up with some compromise. Again, the last thing in here is the grant request must be signed by the mayor or top administrator for cities or executive director for all other organizations. The reason for this is this will help reduce interfighting within that particular organization and or city. That city manager, that mayor, that executive director will have to make the call what items will be submitted, so that, again, there's only one application at a time. Procedures to request the money. Again, determine you have need that fits the intent of the program. So what's the need? We're trying to reimburse members, give them resources outside their general budget to help improve their safety and liability risk management process. Determine all requirements have been met. So go through this PowerPoint or check sheet, which we're going to go through in a little bit, and say, hey, we've met all these different things. Complete the application. Gather the necessary documentation. Submit the completed application along with documentation. You can mail it into that address, or just email Courtney Stepter is the best thing to do. That's who's going to do the initial review of these. You can email it, and I'm just going to forward it to her, but cut out the middleman and email her directly. Wait to receive confirmation, denial, or request additional information, and we'll talk about that process. That should happen within 2 weeks. Grant funds will be released upon final receipt of paid invoices. So we'll talk about that process. A question came up. What are confined space apparatus? So any type of confined space equipment. So you can get for confined space, it's really entry. So let's say you have a manhole, you have city employees are going into, and because of that, they will have a tripod and a line on that, and a harness and lanyard on your particular employees. So when they lower into that hole, they're going to be secure. And if, let's say, there's gases or anything, you can pull those out from a rescue perspective. You also might be looking at ways to monitor that particular space for poisonous gases or hazardous gases. That might be an apparatus. Or let's say that it's immediately dangerous to life and health. Then you might be looking at a respirator or some other retrieval device to be able to do a rescue. Those are all things. But we'd be looking for programs and policies. We don't want you to just go, hey, we're going to get a tripod. I want to see how we're going to use that tripod. Are people trained? So it's really about setting an expectation. You know, if you get a trench box, when are you going to use the trench box? How are you going to use the trench box? Who's trained in regards to that? And those are the things that we would be looking for. But great question. Let's see. Grant funds will be released upon final receipt of paid bills, and we'll talk about that process. If additional information is requested, gather the information and return it to LGMS. So don't be worried if you get an email from Courtney saying, hey, here's the situation. We need additional information. If you're new to this process, or even if you've done it many times, you might have forgotten something. That's pretty normal. And Courtney will follow up with you to ensure that you're successfully getting the information to us that we need. Again, program administration. Each submitted grant request will be submitted to approval by a committee made up of, and it talks about, it's basically GMA people and myself. We'll look at the items. One, we'll look at are your items paid on time. We'll look at then we'll look at the particular items. And the question we're going to ask when we approve or don't approve those items, if for work comp, we try and ask the question, would this particular item help reduce risk to employee injury? If it says yes, then more than likely we'll approve it. If it's a property or liability or a GMA related item, we'll say, will this item help reduce risk from a liability suit, being sued for libel, or be for a property related claim? If those questions are answered yes, we will approve it. If it's answered no, then more than likely it will not be approved. Again, the timeline, the average payment process within 3 months, and it really depends on how quickly you get it. So we received the application, and I'll have that reviewed basically within the board within probably 4 to 12 weeks. We'll send you an email and indicating it's approved, and then once you've sent that back to me with your proof of purchase, so we send you approval. I don't suggest that you buy these items prior to the grant application, because I don't know if we're going to be able to get it approved. So I would wait and suggest, we're going to talk about this process, wait to get approval, purchase it once you see the approval, and that typically takes, depending on the lead time, it might take 4 to 6 weeks, but after that we'll get it processed typically within 2 to 4 weeks, up to 6 weeks. Here's some of the changes within the application itself. So I'm going to go through this. This is, if you have the brochure, you'll see this application within that brochure. So the first thing is no changes here, but important instructions. Please complete only one application per member. Applications can include both GMA and work comp items. Please use your computer keyboard to accurately input all data requested below. All communications will be conducted via email. Data clarity and accuracy is critical to swift approval of your grant. Incomplete applications may be sent back for completion. Click on the blue square at the bottom of the application page to access the link to the items requested for reimbursement template. So take those words as literally, that's the expectation. Again, we want to see your member name. It can be the town or city name, or it can be the authority name. Put the date the application was put into play. We want to see the mayor or highest elected official. So the purpose behind that, we're going to send an email when we give a congratulations email to that particular mayor. So I want to get it to Mayor McCheese here. The city manager, so want to know that person's name and their email address. The key contact person. If we have questions, if we want more documentations, or if we have questions with the item or items, we will be sending that person either email or calling them. But it's very, very critical that you provide that information, because the key contact is all the information will be sent and communicated with. And then anybody else that you would like to be included within the congratulations email. And again, typically they'll put, if they're not the key contact, they'll put the safety coordinator or somebody else within that box, and we'll just add them to the congratulations email. This is a little new. So we had last year, we did add the designated safety coordinator. Again, want you to identify who that is and what their job title is. And then we put down there what are the dates that they received Safety Coordinator 1, Safety Coordinator 2, or Safety Coordinator 3 training. This assists Courtney in tracking that information. So if they have their certificates or can kind of remember, do the best job you can, and we'll look for those particular courses. Then we also want to know who is either has completed this training or is planning to complete the regional training. So again, let's say you send in your application now. You might not have been able to attend any of the regional training. We're not going to be able to send you a congratulations email until you complete that, but you can still send in your applications if that's the only thing you're missing. And again, we want the name, the title, whatever class they took this year, in the year 2024, and the date, either that they completed it or that they will be planning to attend that particular course. And that will help us understand how you're going to do that. Again, same instructions, complete the Excel template provided for all of your requested items below. Please have your mayor or top administrator, executive director, print and sign their names below. By signing below, they approve the list of items being requested. Click on the blue square at the bottom of the appropriate page to access the link of requested items. So as you can see, you got Mayor McCheese and you got Dave McCheese. And again, this is the application checklist. Has not changed from the years previous, but this will help you organize when you are submitting your application. So a copy of the signed, properly signed written policy for seatbelt use, and a description of the distribution process, a documented mandatory use or SOP. So if you have that confined space, you have trenching, you have respirators, you have other pieces of big equipment, how is that supposed to be used? Do you have the policy and training to have people use it? Member employees that attend the LGRS sponsored training last year. Again, if you don't have this met, you might want to just write, well, planning to attend in April, planning to attend this course there. That'll just help us out and help you. Receipt purchase orders attached. Again, you can send in your receipts or purchase orders. That is not necessary. We don't want you really to purchase anything until they're approved, but if you do, you can send those in. If applicable, current in response to recommendations. So you can check your recommendations and see if you've responded to those. A copy of your properly signed written policy or safety meetings, proof or sample documentation of the meetings. So if you've already submitted that language, you did it the previous year, if you've been approved for grant applications for last year, then you don't have to, you can click the box below and you don't have to provide a copy of that. The same thing on the written policy, but you do need to provide the proof or sample documentations of the meeting, so your attendance sheets, and you do need to provide proof or sample documentations of the completed inspection. So the check sheets you've done or any reporting you've done on those particular inspections. Designated safety coordinator current in attendance with safety coordinator 1, 2, and 3 is, again, you don't have to necessarily send in their certificates, but if you can provide the dates that they attended the training, that will work. List of all requested equipment that includes the inspected costs. So again, this is what we suggest you do, and we're going to talk about that in just a little bit. And then if you have over $100,000 premium, then you're going to send in your risk reduction plan, your action plan. Again, just as a reminder, please send your applications via email to Courtney at the email there. And then you click this particular button and on the electronic brochure, and it will send it. You'll pull up the items requested for reimbursement, the Excel template. We're going to talk about that now. So here it is. Here's the template, and what I want you to do, again, read the instructions. Please complete only one application per member. Applications can be included or can include both GMA and WCSIF items. Please use your computer keyboard to accurately input all data requested below. Why do we want you to use a computer? One, it's easier to read. Two, because we are able to copy and paste that. So if you can send that back to us in an Excel format, it makes it easier for Courtney to copy that information and put it in our documentation here online. All communications will be conducted via email. Data clarity and accuracy is critical to swift approval of your grant. Incomplete applications may be sent back for completion. And as you can see here, you got the city and the date of the application, same as you saw on the actual application. So a little bit of a repeat. Again, the key contact information. You want the name and the title, the email address, but also the phone number here, because this is who we're going to pick up the phone to call people on. And then you want the items. So when you're selecting items, we want you to, you can just number those. Hey, and what fund do you think this is going to come out if you're a member of both funds? GMA or work comp. If you don't know, you can just put, I don't know. But looking at this, you got a body camera, and that's clearly a GMA approved item. It will, and then you say, what's the explanation? How will this item reduce workers' compensation or GMA risk? It will allow us to record the actions of our police officers. Again, in doing so helps reduce those liability claims. You got an estimated cost of $2,000. Don't worry so much about the cost, and don't worry so much of meeting whatever your limit is. Put as many items on this list as you would like, and you can, once they're approved, then you can go ahead and purchase the items you want based on your approved grant amount after you receive the approval letter. Again, you can see that it's the body armor. It'll protect our officers from gunfire. We are not looking for an extended explanation. It can be very simple. And again, you look at the last one, not sure, sand, we really need it. So what's it going to be used for? How is it going to protect? We're not going to approve that because I don't really know what it's going to be used for. So I would need more explanation on sand. And it could be approved. A lot of people have used sand in regards to helping playgrounds or doing other things. So for WCSIF or workers' compensation approved items, can the items request to reduce the risk of employee injury or workers' compensation claim? If yes, it is likely to be approved. Items typically approved, again, it goes through a lot of the different things. I will send this also to you. This is a list of pre-approved items, and it works kind of like this. It has different categories. You can kind of look through this, but the general safety, so it has reflective high visibility gear. It's got safety video courses. I won't go through all those. We can look at chemical safety. You can look at first aid, and then it has specific departments, what things have been requested and approved in the past. On GMA, again, can the item requested reduce the risk of property and liability? That's the question we're going to ask. If so, these are some items that we do approve, and it kind of gives that same list. So you can kind of look through. We got motor vehicles and so on. So it talks about all the items that are typically approved or have been approved in the past and will be approved in the future. Ineligibility requests. Grants will not cover personal protective equipment, PPE, less than $20 a pair. So if you want to buy everybody safety glasses, and each safety glass is $5 a pair, we're not going to fund that. It's got to be over $20 a pair. Any disposable items. So we don't really want to pay for disposable items, hard hats, general use safety glasses, safety shoes, flashlights, disposable gloves, and so on. Weapons of any kind, staff salaries, general training requirements. So if you're required to do it by the state on a general basis, we're not going to pay for that. So if you want people to go to the police or fire academy programs, we're not going to pay for those programs. General requirement that can be used for multiple purposes. So if you have a computer that you want to do something on, but you're really just going to use it for your own personal computer, we're not going to pay for that. If you want to buy a couch because it's going to be more comfortable, we're probably not going to pay for that. Again, these are just some of the things that are on each list that won't be approved. Again, this is the work comp. Disposable items, earplugs, gloves, dust masks, safety glasses, disposable equipment or PPE less than $20 a pair, weapons of any type, staff salary costs, general training, general equipment, association dues, fees, and so on. Again, these items will not be approved. This is under GMA list. We've gotten people requested street signs or road signs. We won't pay for those. Weapons of any type. Cloud storage, we won't pay for. Staff salary costs, general training requirements, general equipment, disposable equipment, association dues and fees, general construction, prohibition unless recommended by LGMS. So if LGMS comes in to your site and they recommend, hey, you really need to fix the stairway or the floor is uneven, then we will approve it. But if it's just a general, hey, we need to fix this entryway, we're not going to pay for those construction costs related to it. If it's sidewalks, we'll pay for it. We have paid for sidewalks and other things, but general construction fees, no. Emergency lights, sirens for vehicles. So those emergency lights that are used in all law enforcement or fire vehicles that are required for emergency response, we will not pay for those. We will pay for additional lighting, for lighting that helps with driving or whatever it is, but those lights and sirens we will not pay for. This is an old example of a response or initial review. So this member needed policy expectations. They needed policy expectations for safety meetings, policy expectations for self-inspections, policy expectations for seatbelt usage, those particular three things. And again, as I said before, once Courtney has reviewed, she'll send you either a file, say, hey, we've reviewed your file and everything's good, or we've reviewed your file and we need this, this, and this. This is an example of an approval or congratulations letter. Again, here's the deal. You need to have, again, we'll be looking for copy of a paid invoice, an invoice or approved items marked paid, something that says it's paid. Some proof. We can use, we've used Amex cards or expense. We've used statements from Amazon. Those are all things that we've used before. This is kind of not new. We've used this, but I just want to make sure you're seeing it. Complete and include the proof of purchase reconciliation document. We're going to talk about that in the next slide. These should be sent to LGMS and received via email or postmark before January 15, 2025, actually. So we have to close our books at the end of January. So we want these in by the 15th of that month to ensure that we are getting them in on time to process your payment and getting them in from an accounting perspective. The amount of, so you can see the amount of $3,000, this matches the maximum grant level down here. So you might have put $4,000 or you might have put $400 worth of stuff, but we'll still send you, you have the ability to get $4,000 or $3,000. So you can come and either buy more of the stuff that's already been approved or come back and say, well, can we get this approved? So you can come back for that. The same thing on the GMA side. You got $3,700 because that's the max level. You can see right here, they're only submitted $3,500. So if they want to take advantage of that extra $170 or so, they can submit additional items or buy additional reflective traffic cones, something to that effect. Again, this is an example of when things are denied. You will see the amount of $53 of the items listed below not approved. And you can see what we didn't approve. And again, it's just not approved because it's not within our approved items. Again, this is just a maximum letter. You can see that, so up to $10,000. Here is the proof of purchase reconciliation document. So this document will be included in an Excel format with that congratulations letter, and we want you to return it. So typically GMA members, they purchase a lot of different items. So they might have $5,000 or $3,000 worth of items, and they might have 10, 15 different proof of purchase. So it's very difficult for us to reconcile those 15 different proof of purchase without having some guideline. I want to know what you're looking for and where that is. So you take that proof of purchase, that invoice or that Amazon receipt or that credit card receipt, you print it off on one page. You circle on that the number or the dollar figure that you want to have reimbursed, and then you put a number and you circle it next to it as the receipt number. You do that for every receipt or proof of purchase that you provide. You don't have to provide, just to let you know, just to make it simpler, you don't have to provide the canceled check. You don't have to provide that. I'd rather just see the invoice and that's circled and sent in. It makes things much easier to go through. So that's through the grant. So if you haven't, if you don't have premiums over $100,000, you don't necessarily need to do this, although we welcome you to do that. But this is the process. So this is all instructions that you'll be included. So if you want this, I'll send this in the email I send out to all of you viewing. It will have the action plan and instructions on it. But we really want you to start by reviewing your organizations, your agencies, your city, your town, your authorities' losses. And we can provide that information to you in a loss analysis format and in a loss run format. So within that report, the first thing they're going to do is identify those departments with the highest rate of incidents, the highest rate of claims. So you're going to get, maybe you'll get that information. You can ask your field rep, they'll send it to you. They can ask me, I'll send that loss information to you. You want to identify the 2 departments that have the highest rate of costs within your organization. And we're going to talk about that. I'll show you how to do that. And identify within those departments, what are the highest rate, what's the highest rate of cause? And you're going to look at those. So here's an incident, here's a loss analysis for a city. You can see it's a big city. It's got over this 3-year period, they've lost about almost $3.5 million. And you can see within this, it talks about different loss ratios. So what we're going to be looking at is in this particular case, the departments. So this is all claims by department. As you can see here, Parks and Recs, and this is a GMA loss analysis, had almost what, or had over $1 million of losses in that 3 years, over 32% of claims. So that's something I'd be looking at. Police department had 23, administration had 18%, sanitation had 17%. So you take those top four things, you had over 90% of your losses are on those particular pieces. Then you go down to each of the departments, and it will talk about the claims by programs and claims by contact type. So program is a big bucket, and then contact type is a smaller bucket. So in the Parks and Recs, you can see 100% of their dollar figures, or their total incurred, which is reserved plus paid, $1.1 million is in property losses. And if you look at over on the contact type, they have about 1.1 million of that's in a fire from 2 incidents. So the question you would have is this something that we should be looking at? Is this something we can control? Is this something we can work on? So, and it's really, that's where you have to have those conversations with your Parks and Recs representative, the department manager, maybe even the department as a whole. You'll sit down with them and say, here's your loss analysis. You've had this many claims for this much money. What do you think? Do you think we can do something to prevent this in the future? And then you put an action plan in there to help prevent that. If you look at the police by claims, and again, property's at 0, motor vehicle is at 434,000, law enforcement ops is at $300,000. If you go over the contact type, you got all the different motor vehicle type claims, and then you have, which is a big bucket, and then you got false arrests at $100,000, law enforcement search and seizure at $200,000. So are those things you can control? For me, it looks like motor vehicle claims within the police department is something you should be able to focus in on and put an action plan together. So what will that action plan look like? And we're going to talk about that. So this is a copy of an action plan of Anytown, USA. And what I did was put typical distribution, and I'm going to send you this action plan also. You'll also be able to provide, if you want, again, if you want the distribution of these numbers, please let me know. But the police department has 36% of the work comp and 44% of property and liability. The public works has 17% of work comp and 10% property and liability. That's where we want to focus in on. And you can talk about, you go down to the first thing, that's your first department. You're going to focus within the police department. Motor vehicle claims are 34% of work comp and 29% of property and liability. And then it has the action plan addressed. If you need assistance developing an action plan, I do have a webinar specifically on how to do that, and I'll send you that link for that. But you can also call me. You can also call your risk consultant, and they will assist you with this. So again, when you're developing an action plan, remember accountability is really a key to this. You can have training, you can have a policy, but if you're not holding people accountable for failing to follow expectations, you need to have a process in place to do that. That's where we see a lot of our issues. So set clear expectations, remove barriers, ensure employees are capable, provide quality training. Again, you want to have a seatbelt policy. You need to make sure, one, that every vehicle has those, that every employee can use those, that people's concerns with using a seatbelt are addressed, and then you're providing proper training. So what's proper training? Well, it's not wear a seatbelt. It is, hey, this is the reason why you should wear it, the reason why we want you, the reason you should want to. This could happen if you don't, whether it's the impact to your family or the impact here, that the consequences of failing to follow through with that. Supervisors, others should be providing feedback in regards to that, and then you should establish consequences so that you can consistently hold people accountable. Leadership will need to sign that. That's in the bottom of the action plan. We want either the city manager or somebody of elected official to sign the bottom, just to make sure that also the department managers sign it so that they know they're accountable for meeting the expectations on that particular plan. Questions, comments, suggestions? Anything you guys want to talk about before I let you go? Well, thank you all for your participation. I will be sending out a recording of this particular webinar, a copy of the webinar, and several other items that I discussed during the presentation. So again, thank you all for participating. Thank you all for doing what you do. Please please feel free to contact me if you have any additional questions or concerns. Does anybody have any other questions now? Okay, with that said, you guys have a great afternoon. Oh, can you give us further? Can I give you a call for further instructions? Yes, give me a call or send me an email and we'll set up a time. Good question. Okay, thank you.